we have another of Jubilee's 20v1s. This time they got Amanda Seales. Now there are a lot of opinions people have out there about Amanda Seales, but in this video and this video series, I'm going to be going over each and every talking point that is given by the host and what is counterpointed by the other 20 people in the crowd. Because in this environment now, people will think whoever's on their side is speaking straight facts, spitting out fire. In reality, they're just shitting the bed. So in this series, I'm going to put a tier list for each talking point and then give a rating on what counterpoints were good and what counterpoints were dog shit.
Oh, but wait.
This is a small, itty bitty witty YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. I want to get those numbers up. I want to convert. So please help a brother out. So without further ado, let's get into it.
My first claim is it is undeniable that reparations are just and necessary.
First claim, A tier, that's where it belongs, because it requires a bit of more complexity and deep thought to see the flaws in it, so it's a solid claim. Now here's the flaws, and stay with me. Reparations was just and necessary at a time. Slavery ends in 1865. The perfect time for reparations was within the 18th century and the 19th century, especially up to the mid-19th century. The fact that it didn't happen then, that is unjust, and that is wrong.
True tragedy.
However, now,
That time is best.
to enact reparations, a lot of unjust things have to happen in 2025. And if you think about it deeply, there are people who you think don't deserve reparations would have to be given reparations, who don't look like the people you think deserve it. And on top of that, the money that would be given, many people don't even agree to. Some will say millions, some will say billions, but that's something that would bankrupt the entire country. It's not feasible, and it's
Never gonna happen.
and the just part doesn't exist anymore because you would be doing something unjust. You would have people who never enslaved someone and people who have never been enslaved receiving money. And that entire thing makes it unjust. But let's see what the audience has to say and what type of counterpoints they will.
All right, reparations, fair, necessary. My question would be, who's going to get it? Why would they get it? And how long are we going to sit here focusing on trying to get reparations? It's been how many years since slavery? 150 years, 1865? Whenever there's a real thing that this country wants to do, they do it. Stop Asian hate. Okay, there's a problem with the Asian hate. Let's draft a bill, sign it, and it's done. Anything needs to be done is done. With us, it's a carrot they dangle in front of us that they don't really want to do. And it's not going to help. We need education. Oh, it's not going to help. No, it's not. We need education. Getting a check from the government is not going to do that. And we need proper education. A lot of us go to these institutions where we're not really prepared, we're not really focused, and we don't get things that'll help us in the real world. So if you want to help Black people, a check from the government, from our tax dollars is going to get raised, because let's be clear, everybody in here is Black. We all American, we all got to pay taxes. It'll go to that. So I don't really see how this is going to help us at all.
Okay, well, first I'll start with, it will help on even just a moral level. The reality is that the United States has become very comfortable with the fact that it does not consider Black people equal, and it shows that in many ways that I'm sure we will discuss over the course of today. But ultimately, there has not been a committed, concerted effort to shifting the mindset around the use of Black people as a labor force in this nation back when it was slavery, now in the use of slavery as slave labor in prisons. So on a basic cultural level, reparations are an act of repair. They are an effort to say, our bad, we see you now. We have seen that done with Japanese folks who were put in internment camps. We have seen that done with Jewish folks. We have seen that done even in the case of slave owners who received reparations. When it comes to the use of tax dollars to pay reparations, and this is gonna come up a lot today, it's a matter of values, right? For me, my value system circulates around the fact that I think that as a community, we should all be engaged in repair for our community. So I don't think there should be any problem with there being tax dollars spent at repairing consistent efforts that have been made to impede Black people. So the reparations you're talking about are not just related to slavery. There's reparations that have been discussed all over this nation in different communities as it relates to particular massacres, as it relates to redlining and the impediment of Black people to earn wealth by having property. There's been impediments in various ways that can be repaired. And I want to also just add, there's reparations that are considered a cash payment from a government. There's also the version of reparations that shows up in how funds are applicated to specific groups of people. So there's multiple ways in which what you're stating cannot happen could very well happen.
There is no true political backing to make reparations a reality. It is a race hustler's ultimate wet dream and hustle to gullible minds, because you won't find a real Democrat actually make that become a reality for the whole nation. No president would run on that. You also won't find any Republican do the exact same thing. All you're left with is other third parties. And let's be real, in the United States of America, every other third party is a joke. They will not ever get real or true power in this country as long as this two-party system remains. So realistically, we know that it's not happening. The best that they can do is dangle studies in your face and tease you and tickle your balls and make you really think and make you feel like you're about to climax and get that reparations money, get that billion. But in reality, you ain't getting shit, and you know it.
One more piece here. Reparations, again, always dangling in front of us, never gonna happen. As long as you've been living, as long as I've been living, as long as everybody been living, they say we need it, and it never gets done. One more piece.
You just said one more piece, then you're adding
Hold
another one.
on, I promise.
So hold on to it. No, hold on to it.
I'm gonna land the plane. I'm gonna land the plane, I promise. Reparations is a thing, like I said, it's a carrot to dangle in front of us. They're never really gonna get it done. And if it was gonna get done, it would have already been done. It's just something that they're using to try and make us stay Democrat. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, Democrats are not doing reparations either.
They're not.
This is nonpartisan. This is Black partisan, baby. Okay?
Well,
this is nonpartisan.
Who do we vote for? Who do we vote for 93% of the time? There's no incentive.
To be quite honest, you're not talking to a Democrat. You're talking to a radical.
Okay, but.
All right, at that point, when she says you're talking to a radical and not a Democrat, she is just saving face right there, because she is a Democrat as well. I can promise you this, if you asked her voting record, I guarantee you it's blue across the board. So saying she's a radical is just her being extra. But at the end of the day, she knows, he knows, there is no political backing for reparations. It is a hustle. Anyone who's constantly bringing this up to you, they're just hustling you. And if you can't see that, you're just dumb. You can't brute force your way into having a big chunk of the country pay for something like that. That has to be done through a political party. Like, wake up, people.
You keep saying they're dangling this in our face. They're dangling in our face. Slavery lasted for 400 years. It hasn't even been 400 years since slavery. So should we be only fighting for a quarter of the time to get repair?
All right, I'm so sorry. You've been voted out by the majority.
All right.
Please return to your seat.
Okay.
Nuclear, yes.
Matt Nuclear, give me a better handshake than that. Let's do it.
I appreciate having this conversation with a beautiful Black woman like yourself. This is nice, beautiful arena here. I disagree that reparations are necessary. I think the most important thing that's necessary right now for the Black community would be the stopping of violence, especially Black on Black violence. I don't see how reparations is gonna solve anything. You can give everyone here like a $50,000, especially people that are in the streets who are committing violent crimes consistently, a $50,000 check. It's not gonna fix anything. It's not going to increase the median household income in the next 10 years by 10% or 20%. For example, we have the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. We prevented Chinese people from getting citizenship, and even entering the country. We discriminate against them and basically put them under apartheid, even here in the United States. Yet they have the highest median household income. How is that possible? How come they don't complain and feel entitled consistently to beg for reparations and beg for this when they are killing each other 90% of the time, which is the rate that black people kill each other according to the FBI?
Oh, young Matt.
Yet white people are the oppressors.
I'm not sure where your education came from, but they lied to you.
Stats don't lie, though.
Statistics lie all the time.
This man is speaking facts, but it is annoying to hear the term black on black crime, but I understand why it exists. It simply exists the same way as all lives matter exist. It is simply stated because people feel that there is this belief that the biggest danger to a black person is white supremacy, when reality is that your biggest danger is the proximity you have to people that look just like you, who are more than likely to kill you, which is the same for every other group. However, ours is at a very high rate, and that's just the truth. And for her to make it seem as if he is uneducated or saying something false, it's stupid. But again, she is a hustler, so she's not gonna let it stand to hear those type of facts, and she will completely downplay.
Gonna start your argument on stats don't lie. You've already lost the argument. They lie. They lie all the time. One, comparing Chinese people who are immigrants that made a choice to come to the United States and comparing the continued effort of black people to ground themselves in a nation that continues to make impediments for them to show and live and exist in their true citizenship is a false equivalency.
I don't believe that happens at all. No one here is in.
Are you
being
acting
impinged
right
on
now?
anything.
Do you really believe
I'm telling
this?
the truth. There's no systemic racism that I've experienced here in America. What system is racist? I think the only racism we've actually seen recently, systemic racism that we've seen, is the application of systemic racism against white people. The University of Western Washington, for example, has been trying to segregate dormitories, using black-only dormitories because black people feel safer amongst each other. But they're more likely to kill each other than white people are ever to kill them. That's just the truth. You have King Von rapping about killing other black men. Why should I think that the white man is the oppressor when black men are more likely to kill me?
Oh my
Tell
God, this is scary. You need to think about me as your mama. Do not talk to me in that fashion. So let's check that now.
Okay.
Okay? So on a basic level, we have to understand that systemic racism is grounded in the realities that black people have not been considered an equal human being in this country since its onset. So there's simply no way to make the argument that there isn't systemic racism, and we have seen in very clear ways the system operate in an organically racist way. Do not cut me off. When we talk about systemic racism, we can start with even the fact that redlining, which was implemented to discriminate black communities. Are you shaking your head that redlining doesn't exist?
No, I'm saying I don't think it really existed at all. I mean, no, I don't think so.
All right, so we have the first real L that comes out from the opposition, because redlining clearly did exist. Now, does it exist now? I do not believe so. And another simple counterpoint that he could have given is that systemic racism 100% existed in the United States of America for a long period of time. Though to say that it exists now is not true. Are there some racial disparities? Absolutely. But to say it's systemic, there is no law on the book right now, and you can look it up yourself, that benefits a white person that can't be used by a black person. It doesn't exist. There are racist people around, and there will always be racist people around. But to say it's institutionalized, that is just not factually true.
It does exist, and stating that it doesn't exist doesn't make it no longer exist. Redlining absolutely exists. It is not something that's being made up. It's an empirical fact, and there are realities that exist because of redlining. We know that school systems are related to the way that property taxes are affecting the school systems. If a school system is not getting the same property value as the property taxes allow it, then it's not going to have the same efficacy at allowing for students to be able to get what they deserve. When we talk about systemic racism, we have to acknowledge that these private prisons are literally built based on the test scores of school students in 3rd grade. So if you are literally built...
One thing you will notice that Amanda Seales does a lot is that she'll be very confident and very wrong at the same time. So throughout this debate, pay attention to the Straight Arrow News fact check. In general, they have things mostly correct. Sometimes you'll see some falsehoods they themselves will miss, but it is just amazing when you watch both sides be so confident and so wrong in their beliefs.
I hope some of y'all are acting. I really do. We in LA, and I hope some people in here are acting. Oh, what's that on your chain?
This is a coin from Israel.
Lord have mercy.
Yes, you gotta go.
That's a choice that you are making for yourself.
Yes. The thing with the whole reparations thing, and I don't know, we're probably close to the same age, so maybe you can't call me
How old
mom.
are you?
I'm 32.
I am 44.
Oh, really? Oh, you look young.
Thank you. That's what water and keeping stress out of your life will do.
Really? Liberal positions are real stressful.
By the way, I wouldn't know. I'm not a liberal. Carry on.
Well, it's the liberal position, because conservatives believe in hard work. We believe in going to work and working for what you got,
Yep.
not asking for handouts
Right.
from people who never had slaves. Some of the people that you're asking for money from never had slaves. And let's talk about the fact there were also black people that had slaves. So if you want to talk about that,
Good counterpoint as well, because that is so true. And you do know a lot of times people just want to ignore that. They ignore the reality that there were black people who owned other black people in the United States of America. And let's not even talk about how involved the continent of Africa was in the slave trade. How many countries and groups of people in Africa actively hunted down and enslaved people to sell them.
how is that fair if I'm a white person and my family fall on the side of the Union? Why should I have to pay for slaves when this whole country was never all racist? Some of the founding fathers were abolitionists, and they hated slavery. And they actually put things in the Declaration of Independence and things too, because they believed that there would be a future where there would be a black president one day, or that there would be people in leadership that were black. There was people in the North who helped with the Underground Railroad and fought with the Union. So why is that fair for people who never had slaves, who fought against slavery, to have to pay for people that had slaves?
One, from my understanding, you are more interested in preserving the fairness of those who didn't have slaves than the fairness of those who are the descendants of slaves. That is priority to you than finding a fair way to accommodate those who have been the descendant of slaves.
Well, our ancestors wasn't asking for handouts. They were asking for equal opportunity. And we have equal opportunity in this country. We had a black president, just in case you didn't know. We had a black president and we had a black vice president. I mean, I think she was black. They said she was black. I don't know. So we had a black president, and you know who voted for that black man? White people, because you can't win a popular election in this country without white people. So Barack Obama is the product of white people. So let's get off this thing where, oh, America is so racist. What's making America so racist is people that continue to talk about racism and continue to focus on racism instead of focusing on unity and bringing our country forward. People that have these liberal mindset are infecting our communities, black people, and making us victims and not victors. I refuse to embrace a victim mentality, because that's not what our grandparents and Harriet Tubman and those people fought for. They fought for equal opportunity.
Do not bring up Harriet Tubman's name in vain, baby, please.
They said the Lord's name in vain. The Lord's name.
Harriet Tubman was literally saving her family and others from slavery.
Yeah. You know who helped her? White people.
You know who helped her?
They were on the Underground Railroad.
Who helped her?
Come on in.
You know who helped her?
God and
people who benefit from white supremacy.
Do you notice how she couldn't even say, yes, white people did help? She simply went to, it was people who benefited from white supremacy. And if you used her own logic, the Quakers who helped and the other whites who helped, they were doing something that wasn't benefiting them in any way. So it's insane how she doesn't want to give props for that.
Because their culture, black culture is toxic. The black culture is toxic. We have produced a culture that is toxic. And let's get on the fact that there's no fathers in the black home. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Stop.
Let's talk about that.
None of this is gonna work if y'all are just gonna sit here and make up shit.
It's
not gonna work. No, it's a debate. It has to be in facts.
You're putting off emotional liberalism right now.
I am not putting off emotional liberalism. You're putting off unfounded lies based in conservatism.
Misinformation. Remember they did the misinformation thing all summer where everything conservative did. They said
You're
misinformation.
carrying a chain around your neck of an apartheid nation that actively wants to harm black people and non-Jewish people. But let me bring it back. Let me bring it back.
Selling black people in Africa.
That was not happening in the context that you're saying.
And they were selling their own people. Black people still sell their own people today too, by the way.
I don't know if I'm gonna last.
Amanda doesn't want to accept the reality that black people were culpable for the institution of slavery, especially in terms of looking at the Atlantic slave trade. The culpability comes from them capturing and selling other black people to Europeans. And it's interesting when you think about it. In 2022, there was a movie made called The Woman King. And the only reason why a movie like that could exist is because people like Amanda Seales. They portrayed the African villains of history. The Dahomey were evil. They were horrible. They were slave traders, and their society was heavily influenced by enslaving people very cruelly. But in this film, they were seen as black queens fighting off the evil white man who enacted slavery, which is an absolute historical falsehood. And that is a way of making history be diluted and being fake.
Selling our own people.
I don't know if I'm gonna last.
You probably won't last with me.
I won't, because your ignorance is so overwhelming.
See, that's liberals. Y'all start name calling when y'all getting defeated in an argument.
You won't have an argument because you keep cutting me off.
Oh, well, that's fine if they don't let me come back. I made my point.
You didn't make your point.
I made my point.
You haven't made your point. And let me just tell you about your point. You started off saying, we believe in hard work.
Yeah.
And we believe in being compensated.
Reparations is not, though. Reparations is not hard work. It's stealing. It's Robin Hood.
You said you believe in hard work.
Yes.
And you believe in being compensated for hard work.
Yes.
Were slaves compensated for their work?
They weren't compensated for their work. But why should people who are sitting at home playing video games, smoking marijuana,
are you sitting at home playing a video game? Are you sitting at home playing a video game?
The people that they're wanting
Am
reparations
I sitting at home playing a video game?
He should have stuck to solid points of injustice. Bringing up some people who are lazy is an L take. That doesn't strengthen his argument. It just lessens it to relying on caricatures, essentially, and stereotypes.
I knew I was gonna be surrounded by ignorance, but damn, let's go. Difference between liberal and radical.
Yeah, please.
Ultimately, the concept of liberalism is really just not Republican, right? I mean, that's essentially what it's become.
I would disagree with that, but I understand that's your stance.
There's a very generic concept of what liberalism is, in the sense that it's simply saying that I am a part of the bipartisan mind frame, but I am not a Republican. It's a mindset. It doesn't always show up in action, but it's a mindset that says, you know, I don't support extremes in certain ways, or, you know, I want the government to show up in certain ways. You know, I know there's a conservative point of view that says there should be less government, but even though it just says that, the action is very different. The radical mind state simply is living opposite to our colonizers, which is an imperialist, capitalist mind state, and radical blacks do not believe that that is any way for us to have liberation.
Radical blacks are just hustlers, hoteps, and scammers. That's the easiest way to look at it.
My next claim is that black on black crime is a result of underinvestment and over-policing.
All right, so claim 2, I would say, belongs in B tier. It's the position someone who doesn't believe in individual accountability and autonomy would take. You blame and you scrutinize crimes as always being laid at the feet of others. and never allowing to take an honest or an internal critique of the people committing the crime.
You say that black on black crime is due to underfunding and over-policing, essentially.
Yes.
I actually don't necessarily disagree with one of those.
Okay.
I think that, however, the government, who do you think should be responsible for the funding piece of the black community? Should that be something that the government should step into, or should that be something that we as black people need to handle ourselves? Dr. Jordan Peterson and even Thomas Sowell and several others have stated one thing, that poverty and crime, there's a positive correlation. There's also a positive correlation in the black community of absentee fatherism being one of the root causes leading into criminality. Black males that grew up without a father are 10 times more likely to engage in criminal activity. And so I think one of the—
Can I put a pin right there and ask you a question?
Ask me whatever you like.
What is the root cause of there being less fathers present?
Bad decision making on the part of the fathers. We live in a patriarchal system. Like it or not, men have dominated the socioeconomic, economic, and political power of this country and the world since our existence. So our bad decision-making, especially when we focus on the black community, is the root cause of fatherlessness.
What type of decisions?
Not marrying the women we decide to lay down and have children with. Not being careful with the seeds that we plant in women. No woman can get pregnant without a man planting his seed inside of her. So therefore—
So it's marriage.
Well, that's a part of it. That's marriage is a part of it.
Okay.
But the true piece that I'm looking at is connectedness between familial units. The black community was at its economically strongest while being at its poorest during the segregation era. Prior to 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King in his last speech said that we have an annual income of more than $30 billion a year, which is more than all of the exports of Canada and more than all of the exports of the United States and more than the national budget of Canada. That was when we were economically at our poorest. Yet 85% of our black children were growing up with a father in the home. There was less black on black crime. There was less disenfranchisement.
Why was there less black on black crime?
Because we needed to live together. We had to stick by each other. We had to stick
What
by
was
each
there
other.
also less of?
I'm not sure where you're leading. That's a leading question. I don't like those.
You don't like this?
I don't like leading questions, no. I like direct stuff.
So essentially, when we were living in our own communities, we were also policing our own communities. So we were not being used as statistics in the same way to determine how resources were provided to our own communities. When we were going to the government saying, hey, we deserve, because we are supposed to be separate but equal, we weren't saying, hey, we want to be with y'all. We were essentially saying, we want what you are stating we deserve. And that is what all of the efforts of the civil rights movement has been. It's literally just been to say, you said when we got out of the Civil War that we would be considered citizens, and all citizens should be getting equal access to these things. However, you are actively allowing the Klan to harm us. You are actively allowing—
Who's killed more black people, the Klan or us?
I would like to continue my statement. I let you speak uninterrupted.
You did.
When we talk about this concept of who is harming us, we are really making a false claim when it comes to black on black crime, as if there isn't white on white crime. There's also this unnecessary effort to try and pathologize black on black crime in a way that you don't try to pathologize white on white crime. There are white people killing each other every single day. Now, they may be on jet skis in the pictures after they shoot up their whole family, but nonetheless, there are white people killing each other every single day. Now, much of the reason why you may see more numbers in terms of black on black crime are for two reasons. One, the statistics be lying all the time. We have seen
What
this—
numbers? Okay, when you
we
say
have
that,
seen
no,
this
no,
in a real way.
but I have a
So in
question.
New
No, when
Jersey—
you say, no,
so
when
in
you
New
say that,
Jersey—
what numbers can be trusted? Because with the previous speaker, you
I'm
said
about to
statistics all
tell
the
you
time.
right now.
Okay, so your sources can
You
be
can't
trusted.
such number. No, I'm literally about to give you an example of numbers not being able to be trusted.
Okay, talk to me.
That's what I was doing.
I'm listening.
Okay, then listen.
Oh, my ears open.
So listen, in New Jersey,
Uh-huh.
they had a statistic that was created by the police department that said, look at how many black people are committing crimes. Look at how crazy this number is. These black people are so exorbitantly violent. Look at this. And then people went and actually matched the names that they were booking with the faces of the actual people incarcerated. And it was proven that they were lying.
So that's one instance.
That's
Hold on.
one
No. You're
example.
talking to somebody that works as a police dispatcher when I'm not making content. So here's the thing.
I
So
see.
No.
Example that she's using to disprove every other type of statistical finding is just idiotic. Every stat should be judged on its own. Can stats be false? Yes. Anyone with a brain who can think critically should know that. However, you must prove that something is false. You just can't falsify by just saying it because you don't like the fact. And to me, this is something that people like Amanda Seales do very often. It's cherry picking whatever stats they're comfortable with.
You see what?
Well,
The truth is, you're about to see the truth if you just give me a second. Like Trump said, just give me a second. I'm going to do the weave, but give me a minute.
Well, here's
So
what
when
you all keep doing. You
just
keep
give me-
interrupting me when
Well,
I'm talking, and you don't want to hear the
but
point
the
that I'm
point
going to
you're-
make.
the point that
and
you're
yet you want
raising-
me to respect your point. And that's not how a debate works. So if you want me to keep getting louder, I will do it. But ultimately, if I show you respect, give me the respect back. I let you talk. I let you make your points. I am countering your points. And my points are just as valid as yours, even though you got a pocket square and a Church of Christ pin on your chest.
It's not a Church of Christ. It's
Whatever.
A cross. There's a
It's a
difference.
cross. Same
Yep.
difference. You got an American flag and you think you know something because you a cop. And ultimately,
Not a cop, dispatcher,
and
there's a
ultimately
difference.
it's a cab all day over here. So let me make that clear. But let me also add to my point. My point is that you can sit here and blame black people on black people all day long and not acknowledge that we are forced into. You're coming to interrupt me again.
I haven't even said a word.
All right, that is flagged, so I'm gonna ask you to return to your seat.
Hello.
How
Nice.
are you? I'm
Yes, hair.
Jasmine, the pretty queen.
Laid.
Say less outfit. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is my thing. I think the premise of your question was black on black crime. So I think I'm coming from a place, and I guess my issue is having had my biological father murdered by a black man, having had my cousin shot in the head by a black man. We can talk numbers and statistics and what the people are doing, what the white man is doing and all that. But at the end of the day, I see when my family lives on the south side of Chicago, and I think you and I both can attest to this, and I'm not saying that there are not other factors, but we know that we kill each other at a disproportionate rate than any other race. Now, why we do that and why 6,000 to 9,000 black men are gonna be homicided or killed or whatever by the end of the year annually by other black men, whereas the likelihood of a black man being killed by a white police officer is less than 150 per year, we know that we kill each other at a higher rate. So I'm not debating that there are not factors at play, but because I've lived the experience as a black woman losing my father to be murdered by a black man, walking down the street
to hear that, by the way.
no worries, thank you. But walking down the street in inner cities and different things, knowing that it's more likely that my own brother will rob and rape me than a white man or a white officer, we gotta be real.
What's your proximity to white men in the south side of Chicago? Are there even white men around to rob and rape you at the same rate that there are black men?
There are white men around.
At the same rate?
There wasn't a lot of black people in there, but then that doesn't justify the fact that we're destroying each other. So even if we get to the root, like
we can agree on that,
okay,
sis.
because I feel like a lot of
Nothing
times liberals will
justifies.
argue like, well,
I'm not
the
a
white people
liberal.
are killing
I am not
people.
I'm not a liberal.
Okay, well, I will say that people that sometimes have your stance that are against conservatives, maybe they have this claim that they're making it up, they're making up the numbers. We know that we do that to each other. So I want to get to the root of the issue. Why are we
What is
killing
the
each
root of
other?
the issue?
I think the root of the issue is we've lost our values and we've lost our resilience as black people. We sit there and we talk about what the white man did and we talk about slavery and everything like that, but we have no self-accountability and say, you know what, at the end of the day, that is my black grandmother, that is my black sister, you are my black sister, and you know that a black man is more likely to rob you or commit some type of crime against you, and that's what we need to get down to the issue of. And like you were talking about earlier, like, hey, well, what's going on? You know, what do you think the answer is to one of the brothers that were speaking? I think it's the breakdown of the family. I think, like he said, because of our poor choices, and what happens is we look at domestic violence, for example. When domestic violence, women or men are even attacked, what is the first thing we say? It's like, you know what, it's not your what? It's not your fault. So that's what we do. We hold on to this narrative that, well, it's not our fault, and the issues in our community are not our fault, and the white man needs to give us something, the old white lady down the street is looking at me, and I don't know why she got braids in her hair, and we focus on all these other stupid things that don't matter. We don't get to the root of the fact that we're killing each other at a higher rate than any other race. It is self-hatred amongst us, I believe, that we can do that, that we, my cousin, my mom's cousin, excuse me, coming from the church parking lot, and guess who stuck her up and robbed her at gunpoint? A black man.
I need you to get to the point.
Like,
so
my
I can
point
respond.
is that, no, and I'm not trying to be funny, unless, like you said, we're gonna keep it respectful.
Yeah,
so
but
don't-
you're monopolizing the whole conversation. And
I'm
we're
not
not
trying,
being
okay, I'm
able
gonna let
to.
you speak, but let's not get the
Yes.
attitudes and stuff, because you're my sister and I respect you. So how
I
you
don't
talk
have an
to
attitude.
them-
I'm being direct
but
to
how
you.
you
But you're
talk to them,
literally
you're not gonna
speaking
talk
this,
to me.
and you're not going to do
Okay.
that with me either.
Okay,
so
so
you're
I'm
stating your
respecting you.
point, and you've been stating your point for quite some
So
time. So
say
you
me
have
the
a
proper
reason
ways,
for
would
me
you
to
like,
respond.
would you allow me to respond? So that's a better response. Go ahead.
The response that I have for you is
Okay.
that everything you're saying does not exist in a vacuum. I actually agree with you in that, yes, there has been an incredible denigration of Black worth and Black pride in this nation. I think it's also very important to acknowledge what has contributed to that. And to state that it is only Black people that have contributed to that is a false flag. So we have to admit that. So in order to have this conversation around how we got here, you can't say, oh, well, we're caring about the white woman getting braids and that doesn't matter and this thing.
Amanda is not really interested in accountability for criminality against same race individuals. Her hustle will never allow it and will always find a way to explain it away on something else. Even in a place that has a lot of investments and less policing, you will still have black on black crime. It will not go away just because people have more investments and more money. It is a thing that will always exist because humans will always commit crimes. And they're not gonna make an exception just because you're the same race. Is criminality and poverty linked together? Sure, but it's not the end all be all. There are still going to be criminality, even if you give people all the means in the world.
I'll ask you, do you think we're resilient? What does resilience mean to you? Do you think we have to be perpetual victims, or do you think that black people are resilient?
I think that those are two different conversations. I think that the concept of black people being victims is really trying to not provide accountability to where the root problem for the actual cause is. And if we keep saying that somebody is a victim and that doesn't mean that the other person should have to actually have accountability, then what are we really doing? You can do both. You can be a victim and be resilient.
How do we do both if you stay in the victimhood? That's my question.
But your statement about black people staying in the victim place is also your point of view.
But how do we rise above it?
We continue to rise above it by, one, pouring into our communities with mutual aid, but two, by simultaneously making sure that we are challenging the systems that are in place to impede us. We have so many opportunities where we are trying to do mutual aid, and those things get disrupted by folks who want to have capitalist gain, by folks who want privatization. We used to have all these mom and pop businesses in our communities.
There's over 3 million black millionaires in America right now. You are an intelligent black woman that is successful.
That's irrelevant.
No one's stopping me from doing anything. I'm an intelligent black woman that graduated and is
Many efforts have tried to stop me from doing what I do. We are not all equal in our capabilities. And we are not all equal in our ability to be invested in by others.
I agree with
we
you.
are not all
Question
equal in our trauma.
Are we resilient?
We can't say because it is a false equivalency.
I believe that every black person has resilience.
We
from
keep
slavery
trying,
all the way
but
until
we
today.
keep trying to cause.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You've been voted out.
I want to kind of get rid of this like right left ordeal. I really want to talk about just like our own personal views and what we've experienced, what we've seen. And when it comes to your claim about black on black crime, I really do believe, and I think a lot of people here do believe, especially based off of personal experiences and everything, that it is just lack of accountability. In the black community, we need to start taking responsibility for our actions and stop pointing our fingers at other people and the white man. Because to be honest—
Why can't both happen at the same time? Both are causes.
Because you gotta clean your own house before you go complain.
Why?
Because
if you're dirtying my house, if you keep pouring shit into my house and I'm cleaning it, why can't I do both? Why can't I clean my house and bar the windows from you shitting on my house?
Because it begins with responsibility within us. If we're like, okay, oh, the white person's doing this to me, the white person's doing that, we're not going to ever come to the core of the issue.
They are.
We need to take responsibility.
And it's not even just the white person, because—
Do you notice how she is interrupting him? Do you wonder why? Accountability on the individual side and trying to hold others accountable as well, that is fair, that is just, and it should be happening at the same time. However, if you notice, her focus is always on others because that is what can sell to the masses. When you have the boogeyman, the white man, the evil white man, it's an internal grift that you can just attach everything to white supremacy and never look in the mirror and ask yourself, what are the problems the community itself is creating and how to address it?
Now we have seen very many races, people of very many backgrounds that are actively participating in the effort to keep a working class down. Like that is absolutely a fact. It's not just white people. So I don't attend to that. But I will say the reality of there being systems in place is real. Over-policing is a real thing. You know what's also been really real is the effort of violence interruption in certain communities, right? So we've seen this in Detroit, we've seen this in New York, we've seen this in Baltimore, where there are communities that have said, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be like a neighborhood watch for our community. So that before the popo even come, before 12 even rolls up in here, we're gonna actually put ourselves in between the conflict and calm it down. And that has been incredibly effective. But you know what? It's not funded. It's not funded. And you would think that like city councils and mayors and governors would say, shit, you know what? This is gonna save us so much money, because why? Taxpayers keep having to pay for the fault of these police officers. And even though we say, well, only certain people, only a certain number of people have died, that doesn't dispel the fact that a large amount, more Black people are imprisoned than any other group in this nation. And that is not by accident.
Again, I started with accountability, and it just seemed like
But I disagree with you. I mean, I don't disagree with you.
That was a Freudian slip right there. Her true self is what was revealed in that moment. And her fake attitudes is what you're going to continue to see throughout this debate. But right there, that was the real truth.
Because here's the thing. Look at our media. Look at rap. Look at what we're glorifying.
Right.
We're glorifying violence.
Who's we? Wait, who's we? Who's we? Who's
the Black community.
Who controls the
Black community.
Who controls the distribution of these sources of media?
And who takes it in? And who takes it in?
Listen, if you're okay, so let me put it in this context. If I have a company, right, and you guys are my employees, and I determine what you get to eat every day, that's also going to determine how you exist in this company, right? Like if you come to work and I say the only thing you can eat is processed foods and fried foods, and you're not going to get to have the best vegetables, etc. What's that going to affect? Your health, that's going to affect your ability to operate, etc. This is how the United States operates. There's a lot of us that don't want to admit that as much as accountable as we want to be, all of our brains also don't operate the same way. Some of us are much more apt to be indoctrinated than others. That's a fact. There is a 1% of people that knows this. There's a whole show called Mad Men that's about advertising, etc. And if we don't acknowledge multiple things at the same time, then we simply cannot stop it. We can be as accountable as we want to be. And I hope that if you're right, because I hope you're right, I wish that it was a situation where if Black people could just be accountable, then nothing else would matter. But unfortunately, that hasn't been the case, because we have seen when we have Black Wall Street in Tulsa and we have Black Wall Street in Durham, that when we actually do hold our own and build our own communities, they will still come and run it down.
We're mentioning these two examples of Black Wall Street. To the layman might come off as a slam dunk. I'm telling you, it's not. Those were absolute tragedies, and there's no denying that. However, the self-inflicted destruction that the Black community has done to each other over the decades is magnitudes worse, especially when you account for gang violence. Her analogy of the worker to company, that isn't accurate. A better analogy would have been, when you're looking at rap, look at it as a dealer to drug addicts. Both are culpable, and the addict doesn't exist without the dealer, and the dealer doesn't exist without the addict. So both of them hold responsibility, and both need to be addressed. But someone like Amanda is only going to look at the drug dealer. For rap, you have the audience, and you have the audience that does enjoy the glorification of mass slaughter of other Black people by other Black people, and so many other negative stereotypes that they push. And you might want to blame, hey, who owns these record labels? That's one decent and righteous complaint, but you have to understand the record label is only putting out what the audience will look at, what the audience will pay attention to. The same thing with YouTube or anything else. Views bring in money. Attention brings in money. And it grabs people's attention, and it's something that many people in the Black community gravitate towards rap. And rap isn't bad in and of itself, but the aspect of the drill type rap that encourages and uplifts violent, extremely violent things to be done to other Black people, it's toxic and it's deadly.
We proclaim so much about Black Lives Matter, but when it comes down to a white person killing a Black person, it's a big deal. It just don't make no sense to me.
Do you know what the statement Black Lives Matter is actually stating?
Yeah, well, like, you know, just started off from George Floyd.
Start off from Mike Brown.
Mike Brown, okay.
So Black Lives Matter is really simply just stating that when Black people are murdered by the police, that our lives should matter, and that oftentimes it is not considered. it is oftentimes presented as we deserved it, or we must have done something to cause it, and that our lives are disposable. We also don't ever see true justice on the same level as others when the police incur violence against Black people. So Black Lives Matter is a statement asserting that our lives are worth justice, our lives are worth preservation, and we have seen in innumerable instances a level of restraint operated between the police and people of other races that they do not seem to carry with Black people. So that's what Black Lives Matter means.
Black Lives Matter as a slogan is right, and 100% I agree with it. The organization, not so much. Though the biggest harm to this slogan is the glorification of Black violence to other Blacks by Blacks. Because saying to other people that Black Lives Matter while rapping about ending Black lives in the most horrific ways, it doesn't make any sense. When Black lives are killed by their peers at a higher rate, and the slogan then becomes kind of sullied, it becomes meaningless. And when you see the media and activists show massive outrage when it's a white officer or any officer, it is justified, it's okay. But they are also peddling in hypocrisy, because when it's another Black person doing the exact same horrific thing, they're all silent and they ignore it. Black lives ending shouldn't only matter when they are being unjustly killed by law enforcement.
Next claim is systemic racism isn't a theory. It's our lived reality backed by data and history.
This belongs in A tier. Historically speaking, systemic racism is 100% true, so there is no denying that. However, the counterpoint is it's not present in current day. In the United States, there is no law on the books that favors a Black person or a white person over any other racial group. And that is what systemic racism is. It has to be driven by law and enforced by law. It can't just be an individual person in authority who is racist, because that will always exist. Just like there can be an individual person or persons at a company that are racist, but that does not mean that's systemic racism. That has to be entrenched in law and enforced in law, and that does not exist in 2025. Are there racial discrepancies? Abso-fucking-lutely, but that does not mean that that is equal to systemic racism.
What I'm hearing from you, if I'm hearing correctly, is it feels like in the United States that for a while we've kind of established these systems at their foundation, and they've continued on, and they've continually just oppressed Black people, and we haven't dismantled them, and we haven't done much so they continue to complete the cycle. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Well, in many of these systems, they have been dismantled maybe in name, but because this country has never dismantled the culture of racism, they end up still living in practice. So we see that, for instance, in the way that the appraisal system works. Now, we saw there was an entire documentary on how appraisals have been also very racist, home appraisals, right? So your ability to sell your house for the value that it deserves.
Right.
There were a number of homes, particularly in Marin County, California, where Black people had one appraisal when they had their Blackness up. So they had their dashikis hanging, and they had their, they had their Black Good Times poster. But then when they removed all of those items and put up white people and a dog in the house, and then had their white friends come and pose as the owners of the home, the appraisal was significantly higher. And we have seen that in a number of instances. Now, of course, that is just Marin County, but there are a number of other scenarios where this has been relayed. And that's why there were certain efforts by the Democratic Party to say, okay, well, we're gonna try and step in for this.
I actually remember that case, and I watched it with the family, and I thought that was just really just terrible. But the problem I guess I have with systemic racism is, I guess for somebody like me, where my family comes from, the Deep South, you probably don't even know it, Aliceville, Alabama.
Okay.
That's where my grandparents are from. And my grandpa came, if you saw the house that he grew up in, I'm not trying to be funny, it looked like a slave house. It was just, they grew up in poverty. And the fact that he was able to go from that and get the highest rank enlisted in the United States Navy amidst, all these, systems, so to speak, and he was able to buy his own house out in San Diego. He was able to, pass on these things to his son, my dad, and his grandchildren. Now I'm able to get an education. I was able to get my undergrad, my master's, that, the great-great-grandson of enslaved peoples can now say that, educated and can even run for Congress. I don't see how these systems are still in place as they were before, because before I would say you do have a little bit of a foothold. You do have some validity there. But I just think these days when we call it systemic racism, really what we're calling it is those people who may still be in those institutions, those individual people who may actually be racist and hold some racist ideals, who are continuing to perpetuate this. I believe it's those people. So in all reality, the problem is not the systemic racism. The problem is us. The problem starts with us, with those people who are perpetuating these, racist ideals. And so I feel like just to attack these systems is it's nonsensical.
All right, how you doing, Amanda? I'm Ryan.
Hello, Ryan. Nice
to meet you. Thanks for being here. All right, well, what I would say is, as far as systematic racism, right? I think most of us would agree that at the very least it has occurred in this country.
Okay.
Right, we've had slavery, we've had Jim Crow segregation, all these different things.
Yeah.
I think my argument would be that right now in modern America, I don't think, at the very least, it's not as prevalent as it has been to where it could stop us from being successful, okay? I would say that it's not a thing anymore where it needs to be talked about so much and so much attention focused on it. I don't think that currently there is systematic racism in a way that is going to be harmful to us, like I said, to stop us. If anything, really, I think institutions such as things with DEI.
What do you think DEI is?
Basically, I think that it's in a way it's racism against other races outside of blacks. And so,
where did you get that concept of it from?
I've researched a lot of things. I looked at different clips from both sides of the argument, things like that. But basically, my point is, I think that as far as systematic racism, I think that there's evidence from the other side in that there's different things that are pushing black people up in ways that are not fair, and different things like that. Because I think that we should be merit-based. I think that should always be merit-based, and where we're in, when there's jobs and different things like that, race should not be something that's considered. And so, I think that, let's say that there are ways right now where systematic racism is still alive. Again, it's not holding us back to a point where we can still be successful. We've seen so many examples, today in modern times where Black Americans can, there's no opportunities that I have that a white person or that a white person has that I don't have. I believe that all opportunities.
Are you sure about that? Can you actually say that?
I would say that I have every opportunity in this country to be successful, to do what I want to do, and to stand on business that every other race has.
This mindset is what every person should have. There is nothing by law or systemically that is holding any minority group racially from achieving academic success, financial success, and many different forms of success. His mindset is the antidote to the victimhood mentality, which is what Amanda Seales wants to pump into the minds of gullible, misinformed, and indoctrinated Black minds.
Absolutely, and
do you have the
again,
same support?
Even if I don't have the same support, I can do what I got to do.
Do you have the same support?
I probably have more. I can have more support than others.
Support?
I have excellent community support.
That's
absolutely.
Lucky for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Where did you grow up in a lower income, middle income, high income community?
It was middle income.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, I think that even those who grew up in very needy situations, right, they may not have been dealt a great hand of cards.
But they still.
They can still, I think it comes down to accountability. You can still play your hand and play your cards strategically in a way where you can still be successful, you can still do your thing, and you can wind up on top. And there's nothing stopping us from doing that.
Would you say that low-income white people and low-income Black people have the same ability to excel?
I would say they have the same ability to excel.
Okay, so I'm going to start countering from that point then.
Sure.
So ultimately, we know that our low-income communities are not given the same access to resources on a myriad of levels. They don't even have the same air quality, okay? We know that low-income communities in general are also gonna be much more policed than other communities. We know that policing as it exists in the United States came from slave catching. So even the tradition of policing comes from protecting property, not protecting people, okay? So let's start there. When we talk about low income, like the working class Black people in this nation, we know that they have never been considered ever, whether they were slaves or not. They just weren't considered. And we also know, as our brother Isaiah pointed out, that there are still people in very powerful positions that hold very personal positions as it relates to racism. And so in that way, they are impediments to someone moving forward.
Okay.
When we talk about DEI, the concept of DEI is not about lowering a standard. It's about widening the options. So we live in a nation that I feel like a lot of y'all are looking at the United States as a long history of something. We have a short history, all right? For 400 years, there was slavery. Black people were not even considered whole humans. We were 3/5 human. After the Civil War, during Reconstruction, Black people were then subjected to the Black Laws. The Black Laws were specifically for Black people. The Black Laws incarcerated Black people at such an exorbitant rate that they were able to get another slave labor force through the 13th Amendment, because you had Black people that were serving entire life, like months-long, years-long sentences for jaywalking.
Okay.
So when we look at these things, we act as if, well, why can't we just get over that? That's 2 generations previous, okay? So if a father in the early 1900s was incarcerated for 2 years, how do you think that would impede their family from being able to grow, right?
Sure.
Now you're affecting the ability for their children to have 2 parents in the home. You also now have a mother who's like incredibly stressed and may have to always be working, so she's not able to parent, etc. We also know that there is a continued effort in this nation to not have Black people know the history of this nation. Like our good sis here was talking about, like, we have resilience, but this nation actively works systemically to keep that from us, right? We look in Florida at the laws that they are passing to not allow education about our past. And we know that if we don't know where we came from, how can we know where we're going?
Sure, okay.
All right, I'm so sorry. I'm
Hi again.
We cool now?
We good. We good. I think we're on the same. We're kind of looking at the same side of the same coin, and I think we both want the betterment of the Black community, and I think we're maybe coming from it from different ways. And so I do respect your position to what you were saying as well, that there are certain things and powers at play. And I've experienced racism firsthand. A lot of conservatives may try to act like, oh, there's no racism in America. I absolutely believe there is racism in America. I believe racist people exist. I just don't think that the systems as they stand today are inherently racist, because I've seen too many Black people overcome. And I just feel like a lot of times what's left out of the dialogue is self-accountability and like self-will. We talked about how we were 3/5 of a person, but now we are 100%, I guess, according to the law or whatever, a person. And I feel like at the end of the day, if you wanted to walk out here right now and decide, you know what, I want to change my career, I want to do that, you can. And that's why so many people, and Nigerians come here, and Indians come here, and so many people who are not white, who are supposed to be discriminated against because they're not white, they come here and they become doctors and lawyers. Why? Because to your point, there's community. There's a sense of pride about, you know what, I got to go honor my parents back in Nigeria. I'm part Nigerian. I have to go honor my parents. I have to go honor my elders. They're not twerking and shaking booty. They're getting
They are literally twerking and shaking and booty in
the
Nigeria.
Nigerians I know ain't doing it. If they are
We
twerking and shaking, but they
literally learned it
doctors
from Africa.
They're doctors twerking and shaking booty. So
have
maybe
it
they
from
can
Africa.
shake because they got
But
the money to back it up.
that's
But do you see what
an
you're saying? But do
generalization.
you see what I'm saying though? We have American dream is I have a right to that as well. Is that me joining white people, or is that me saying, you know what, I
What's
want
the
a life for
American
my
dream?
The American dream for me, because it may look different from other people. Some people it's a boss chick. For me, I want my kids to grow up in a wonderful neighborhood. I want them to go to college. I want to have a 401k. I want to do this. I want to do that. So I feel like a lot of times in the Black community, we associate anything that's right or that's just or that's striving forward with whiteness. So when you say that we're working
it's not
with
that it's
them,
whiteness, it's capitalism. And I think that's what we have to understand the difference of. The concept of capitalism always is grounded in exploitation.
But Amanda, we're sitting here benefiting from capitalism, and you know that because you would want to
I
move to a
understand that we are
communistic-
benefiting. I understand that we are benefiting from capitalism, but I also understand that we would have other people and a majority of people benefit if we were not solely capitalist. That is what it means to be a Black radical.
Now, all of a sudden, capitalism is a problem. The private ownership of the means of production. Come on. Amanda has completely shit the bed now. Her Black radical views, I bet, is aroused at the thought of communism or socialism. Both of these things have failed and have not led to better outcomes compared to capitalism. And history has shown that repeatedly. The dream of success or living a comfortable life is evaded by many due to their individual choices. But Amanda has shown throughout this debate that accountability and autonomy is like her kryptonite. She'll take the easy coward route and always look to blame others instead of looking from within. And to be fair, can others' decision affect your life? Absolutely it can. An idiot would not think of that. But the question becomes, what is the largest factor? And the largest factor, the vast majority of the time, is going to be your decisions, not the decisions other people have taken that has affected you.
My final claim is Black conservatism fails to meet the needs of the working class.
Right, this fourth claim belongs in F tier. This here shows her liberal side on full display. The values encouraged by Black conservatives will take anyone in the working class, especially Black people, to greater heights. And I also believe the same for Black liberals. I think that they have viewpoints that are definitely constructive and helpful to the Black working class or anyone in the working class. For conservatives, the belief of self-determination, get it out the mud, grind and work hard, along with striving for merit over identity, is exactly what the working class needs, not the poison pill of despair or fear-mongering that Amanda loves to peddle. The root to all of her issues, every issue, she will find a way to tie it to white supremacy over and over without fail.
Nice
I'm
to meet
Laila.
you.
I would actually argue that the Black working class is failing themselves. Wouldn't you agree that, you know, in order to get a job, in order to qualify for a certain position and an education system at a job, wouldn't you argue that it should be based off of qualifications and not your race or identity?
I've never argued that. I've never argued that to not be the
I know
case.
that you were saying that you would argue that it should be equal, right? So you're saying that there should be Black Americans in education systems, in jobs, but wouldn't you argue that they should be qualified for those positions and not just placed there because of their skin color?
I've never disapproved that.
Okay, so let's say—
That's not what DEI is.
Okay.
Do you know that?
Well, I'm not talking about DEI right now. Well,
because you're suggesting that I suggested that somebody should get a job just because they're Black. And I've never asserted anything like that.
I mean, I understand that you may not say that exactly, but a lot
I
of the
didn't say that
claims
at
are,
all.
you know, they're pointing to that.
No, it's not pointing
so-
to that.
okay.
And so that is that I need to clear this up because
Okay.
it's a really important point.
Okay.
We live in a nation that has actively pedestaled white people. Can we all agree on that? That we
In
no,
the past,
we can't.
in the
Okay,
past,
in the
but
past,
not
in the
currently,
past.
but not currently.
So okay, fair.
Okay.
Okay, so how many Black people are a part of this administration's cabinet?
I'm not sure. Can you tell me?
Zero.
Can you fill me in?
Zero.
Oh,
Who?
so seems like there may be a
That's
couple.
not a cabinet.
I don't know.
Scott Turner.
Okay.
Okay.
So
we
there are.
So we got two.
So there are.
So we got two.
Can we
got
also,
two. We got two. So
Look how confidently she made that claim and how quickly it was disproven. It goes to show that she had pre-planned dialogue tree ready to go and it was fully dismantled in that moment.
back to your point, DEI is about expanding.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Not lowering credibility.
Okay.
So if we have a system that has very actively said these particular people are the best people simply because of their race, DEI said, or their gender.
Okay.
Because DEI mostly leveled up white women.
Okay. So it would be incorrect if it's, you know, if we're pointing toward this, you know, a majority of race is qualified because of the skin, the base of their skin color.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whether they're white, black.
Okay,
I mean, race is fake anyway.
Now, I do want to touch on a point that you did mention earlier, that you would argue that, you know, black people have less opportunities in America. I do not agree with that. I have not had, you know,
first of all, you're a light-skinned woman.
And so are you.
Yes.
And you're doing great for yourself.
Yes, and so colorism really does serve us.
I do want
Colorism invoked out of nowhere. Colorism is primarily a self-driven, community-driven wedge bolstered and enforced by the black community against light-skinned and dark-skinned, when in the end of the day, they're all just black and different shades of it. If you don't believe me, spend some time around a group of black people. You will see in certain conversations, colorism will just come out of nowhere, just like it happened then. You will see them riddle each other in insults about their skin tones. I believe it's because some of them feel that they're better the lighter they are, or even some feel that they're better the darker they are, which is both stupid.
I want to say, why do you think that is though? Why do you think that? Do you think it's just based off the color of our skin, or do you think it's based off of the reputation that Black people make for themselves?
What reputation are Black people making for themselves?
What would you argue? Because I mean, when I look
who makes the reputation for Black people?
Let's look at music, for example.
We already had this conversation with somebody else.
Well, we're gonna have it again. Most of the people that
are we?
Most of the people.
I'm gonna shut it down right now and let you know that the reality is that when you come to Black music, for you to say most of the people, you've already lost the argument.
Am I right?
There is no most of the people with Black people because you haven't heard of all of Black music.
Most of the music that is, let's say, maybe exalted or are shown by the media, right?
And who controls those systems?
It defiles
and
Black Americans. But who's putting it out there? We are Black. We're the ones putting it out there.
Actually, the distribution systems that are putting them out there are owned by white people.
Who listens to them? Because I can bet you most of my friends, my Black friends that are not conservative, they listen to that music that defiles their bodies.
You know
that
who
talks
else
about
Black
on Black crime and
everybody
it's a good
else.
thing.
But if
Am
we
I
don't
right?
acknowledge that they are not in the same way pursuing white voices talking about the same thing, even though they are. We simply like to start at the branches of a tree and not at the root. We have to understand that the media is king, okay? Media is king.
And there definitely was a time where the reputation, destruction of the Black image was definitely something that the greater society was pushing. And it was 100% wrong then. However, now in modern day, I will tell you the biggest drivers of making Black people look horrible and pushing negative stereotypes and making us look super degenerate. It is other Black people, Black celebrities, Black people of influence and power still want to make it seem as though we are all these horrible caricatures. And you'll see it in TV, you'll see it in rap, you'll see it in movies. Look at big networks like the Zeus Network, or look at BET, or look at any other Black directors like Tyler Perry Studios. Do you not see how Black people are constantly depicted in his films? The massive stereotypes that are played out over and over and over, year after year, decade after decade.
Media does not favor conservatism. I can tell you that right now.
Depending
I mean, look at the protests right now in Los Angeles.
Depending on who is in office, media does favor them.
I mean, we have Trump in office right now, and media is not favoring Trump at all.
Media is absolutely not favoring Trump in certain spaces because Trump is also not favoring that particular type of media. But it depends on the day. And we have to acknowledge that regardless of whether you talk conservatism or not, media has never favored Black people at any point.
All right, guys, that's time. You've been voted out.
Thank you.
Please
At
return to
any
your seat.
point.
Thank you.
I'm back. So let's talk about facts. I just want to move back to systemic racism because you mentioned systemic racism earlier. I just want to look at 3 applications of systemic racism against white people and against East Asians as well. So for example, we have the National College Attainment Network, which defines affirmative action or even race-conscious admissions as taking race as one of the factors in whether or not you're going to admit a student. And we noticed that when race-conscious admissions was out of it, Black enrollment dropped 64%. At UC Berkeley. And that is an act of systemic racism. Trying to look at people's races and allow them into colleges whether or not they're of a set race is racism. I mean, it's race conscious. And Martin Luther King's most famous quote is that he doesn't want his children to be judged based on race, but by the content of their character. And the content of people's characters also includes merit. We have another example of systemic racism. Burgess Owens, he's a representative out of Utah. He's a Black Republican representative. He called out the MIT president for having Black-only dormitories. I mean, what does that mean? Why are we trying to segregate each other and say that Black people feel safer amongst Black people when the truth is they are actually more in danger when they're around Black people? And that's unfortunate. It's sad that I'm saying this, but it's the case, and I have to say it because it's true, okay? Black people are killing each other at a vast, crazy rate. Black men rapping about it. It's savagery, it's barbaric, and we shouldn't be doing it as a people. We should try to get more Ben Carson's. Ben Carson's cousins were murdered when he was younger, but his mother came to him and gave him a book and told Ben Carson to read and study to not be like his cousins. And Ben Carson separated 2 twins at the back of the head, and he's known as one of the best renowned neurologists or neuroscientists that we've ever seen, right?
Ben Carson said that slaves were immigrants.
Well, they were brought here. to the United States, and many of them were slaves, and we know that to be a fact.
What is the difference between someone being an immigrant and being a stolen person?
I mean, I understand that many people were stolen here, but 90% of historians agree that slavery would have not been possible if black slave owners within Africa didn't sell off their people.
That is a good take by Amanda, because Ben Carson's statement was completely false and for sure a massive L take. But notice how she doesn't address any of his other solid points. She just honed on to the bad take by Ben Carson. It just goes to show she is checked out, and it's all about talking points for her now.
White people didn't show up and just start stealing people. They didn't do that. That's not how that worked.
They literally did that.
But they didn't. They worked with black owners and
They
the Arabs. The same
literally
thing.
did that.
It's funny
and
you guys talk
Arabs
about
did that as well. And I think it's
They
very
did it in the 7th
important.
century,
And I
too.
think it's important to note that there is an oversimplification of history as well as of black people in Africa. There's a failure to acknowledge that in Africa, black people did not consider themselves black people. That was a racial distinction that was solely created by white oppressors to legitimize slavery.
Arab oppressors, actually, because the Arabs did it in the 7th
To
century. They
legitimize,
were the first ones.
They did not name it under blackness. They simply just decided we're going to go and have enslavers.
The point that the concept of blackness didn't exist in Africa at the time. But she's also using it as an excuse for them enslaving many people for hundreds of years. Those slaves captured and stolen were brutalized and sold off. She won't give that real fact any credence, and it speaks volumes to those who know history.
This was a decision that was actualized and then tried to be pushed forward through eugenics. Literally, there was an executive order that was passed a few months ago that said that Donald Trump wants to now control the museums because he wants to take back control of the narrative around race. And in one of these museums that they cited was that there was a display that speaks about race not as a biological thing, but as something that has just been created as a social construct. And he stated that that is an incorrect expression of race, that race is biological.
But it is biological. Like let's look at our phenotypical traits, the nose differences,
wow.
the hair texture. It's a biological thing.
Oh,
sure, there's a social
not,
concept, but there's biological
okay,
differences that
sir,
exist. It's
you're
fine.
very convicted in your
We look
lack
different.
of information
People can look
around
different.
these things. Race and ethnicity are two different things, okay?
I'm talking about
Ethnicity
race.
is where you're from. Race is literally something that was created to put people into categories of caste, to put people into categories of oppression. Race is not something that you are. Race is something that was bestowed and put
That's
upon you.
racism, not race. Race is simply the
race
aggregation.
is literally something that was created and put upon you.
On the part of race being a social construct, I agree it is no different than gender being a social construct. Though there are biological differences between the races, the whole concept of a race is a social construction. So I understand that. And I can see how someone who is not as informed could make that mistake and not know that. But overall, I can say that Amanda doesn't want to live in a post-race society. I guarantee you she will hang on to blackness if that's the last thing she could ever do on planet Earth. So I promise you, don't think that she's trying to be this person who wants to be like, oh, we're all just humans, bro. No, that's not her point.
And I want you to listen to me as somebody who has studied this, who has a master's in African American Studies from the Institute for Research in African American Studies at Columbia University. I want you to understand very clearly that race is not something that is biological. There is literally
Look at us.
no.
Look at the
There is
differences.
there is many differences that are equated to ours that
And
has
they're
nothing
not
to do with
biological?
race.
Melanin
That has nothing to
content
do
is
with
not
race.
biological at
so
all?
if you have a black parent and you have a white parent and now you come out looking white, how is that a biological
But most-
proof of
most
your
of them-
race?
most of them
There's
come
no
out
most of them.
having
Stop,
curly
stop,
hair.
stop. There's no most of them. You do not
Mixed
have
race?
anything to
You're
prove
mixed
that.
race, too.
I am not mixed race. My mother is black and my father is black.
Well, my father is also considered black, but he's very much has a lot of European DNA. And
You know what I think? I think that you are at a phase of your learning where you are a contrarian. And I look forward to seeing your development because I have a feeling that you're actually going to flip the script eventually because you are somebody that definitely is grounded in wanting to learn facts and wanting to learn the truths of things. However, you're currently still stuck in an indoctrinated space that is tricking you into thinking that you are something that you are not. You are a black person who is literally having to receive the results of racism, but ultimately you are of an ethnicity that has thrived in spite of it. And that is where we really exist from. And that is where our resilience comes from in spite of systemic racism.
I think that Black people as a community need to walk away from the Democratic Party and progressivism completely.
Claim 5. I will say that one belongs in D tier. I've always found it annoying and lame when people will talk about, hey, blacks need to leave the Democratic Party. To do what? Join the Republican Party? To me, that just comes off as partisan hacks. And to me, you should stick to whichever party that you believe in and your values aligns with. Now, if there's things that that party can do that is better for you, push that party to do that. Don't just flip sides because of that, because then you're gonna come off as a grifter.
I'm saying this from a very unique perspective. I'm not trying to shout myself or anything. This is really just my experience. Currently, I'm running for Congress, right? And one of the biggest hurdles I have in doing that is the Black community. It's because they expect us to be in this box.
What's the box?
The box would be, okay, you're Black, so you gotta be a Democrat, you gotta think this way, you have to have this view on this matter.
No, you gotta tell me, think what way?
Like,
I really want to understand.
So let's take immigration. That's
okay.
a hot button issue right now, especially in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
My view is that you should come here the legal way, and that if you don't come here the legal way, you are subject to the laws of the country. But I also feel that if you're—
anyone would disagree with that.
Yeah. But, well, I'm just saying is that a lot of people, especially where I'm from San Diego, will like to put Black conservatives in this box. And the reason why I say specifically in my claim that Black people need to walk away from the Democratic Party is because every single election cycle, all they do is use us as their tokens. They use us as their kind of election tools. They use us as these campaign posters. They tell us to come to their rallies. They tell us to sing on their stages. They tell us to do all these things, and they forget about us 3 other years, and they remember us 4 years later. Every single cycle, it happens again and again.
And the Republicans, neither of them actually care about Black people. And when we talk about conservatism or we talk about being a liberal, neither of these aspects were grounded in how do we help to repair the harm that we have caused an entire group of people who made it possible for us to even have a constitution. So you can sit here and show me whatever you want.
No. The only reason why I was going to show you this is because
even with that Constitution, we weren't even humans.
What?
When they wrote it.
So that was another fact check I wanted to kind of fact check before, but I couldn't say anything. But the 3/5 compromise had nothing to do with your 3/5 of a person. The 3/5 compromise had to do with representation in Congress. So there's a little note here if you open this.
The 3/5 compromise said that the Southern slaveholders needed to be represented fairly in Congress. And because there was so many more slaves than actual white people in the South, they were allowed to count their slaves as representation, even though those slaves did not have the ability to vote.
If we were at that time, let's say the 3/5 compromise never happened, we were a whole person as in light of the government, right? If that happened, then this America would not be the America that you know today. Because what it was is, we were counted as whole—
You're defending the 3/5 compromise,
Can you
bro.
just listen? Can you listen? No, listen for a second.
Okay.
Because I don't want you to get mischaracterized what I'm saying, okay?
Okay.
Slavery was wrong. It was absolutely disgusting and immoral thing.
Okay.
I have nothing good to say about that. But the 3/5 compromise, if you counted a person who was a slave as a whole person at that time, most of the slaves were held in the south of the Mason-Dixon line, right?
I just said that, yeah.
So what would happen is they would have more representation in Congress, and thus those laws that were, by the abolitionists, those would have been gone. Okay, so that would have gave the South more power to do the things that they couldn't do. So that's why they said the 3/5 compromise, because then if it's 3/5 compromise, they don't get that power. But of course they're people, so they have to say something, and that's where this came into play. Because if it wasn't for that, this country would have looked a lot differently.
So you're suggesting that it was okay for slaves' bodies to not only be used for labor, but also used to empower those who are harming them to be fairly represented in government?
Amanda Seals is an intentional and intellectually dishonest human being. It is abundantly clear why the 3/5 compromise was made during that time. And for that time, it made sense. And now, when I'm saying it made sense, I'm not saying that it's a good thing for you not to have a full right as an individual adult in the United States of America, especially at that time. No, I'm not saying that. I am saying that if you allowed that at that time with them being under slavery, the South would have been given an insane amount of power to enact insane policies if that was allowed. And of course, we did end up having a civil war to end slavery. I promise you, would have taken decades more, or who knows, even hundreds of years more, if that compromise wasn't done. Because again, they would have had an army of slave votes to enact their will throughout the entire nation, and they would be unopposed because they owned the majority of slaves in the South at the time. They would have taken advantage of votes from enslaved people and treated it the same as freed people, knowing that they had full control over the slave person. Do you understand how fucked up and twisted and deranged that is? That could have not been allowed. So that is it for this debate. Amanda Seales had some slight solid points, but in general, I think she has a lot of points that are bad and detrimental to the Black community. The opposing side had some decent points, but some of them were just really not well informed. So it was a wash on that point. But I'll say this overall debate, if I had to give it a rating at a final score, I would give it a solid C. So please like and subscribe. I'll be doing another video in this Jubilee series, and it's going to be a banger.